Hi, welcome back to the podcast School of Love, where we want to help you create parent-child relationships where you can talk about anything, especially sex. And to have those conversations, a big part of that is grace. Today we talk about grace. What comes into your mind when you hear grace? First, for me, it was always big crowds of people clapping, wearing white t-shirts. But yeah, I've realized a lot more about its meaning through this podcast and through this conversation. And today I talk with the Wolfenbergers, and they have 7 kids, so they've really learned a lot. They are on definitely a few levels higher than myself on grace. And so we talk about how important this topic is in parenting. It's a huge slice of what parenting even is. And another thing is how much we need to have that unconditional love for ourselves so that we can give it to our children. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this podcast and learn a bit more about grace so you can have it for yourself and give it to your kids. So, hi, Uncle Dave and Aunt Mitsue. It's really nice to have you back here.
Hi, Amelia. Thank you for inviting us back. Yeah.
Yeah, so today we want to talk about grace and parenting, or parenting with grace, because we're talking about all of the high noon virtues in parenting. So, yeah, when I think about grace and parenting, I think I need a whole lot of grace for my kids, but then a whole lot more for myself. What would you guys say to that?
Yeah, I would say both. Yeah, we need both.
When I chose this 5 virtue, the grace in high noon, like you have to give grace to your children. That's what I thought. That is the most important, like communication, or because we are dealing with the sexual sin or sexual like immorality or these things. If you have judgmental heart, like without grace, children would not speak, or children would not feel accepted. So I thought about parents have grace on the children. We can be very judgmental and expect too much of them, especially second gen, right? The breast children we call.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just, yeah, as we parent, I think we sometimes experience like, oh, I didn't do that so well with my child. And we just feel so much, yeah, remorse or pain, but we do need to forgive ourselves also, right? So I feel like grace, it's just so important in both of those aspects, like giving that to our kids, but then also being able to receive that grace for ourselves. Yeah. I don't know. It's maybe a really big part. I don't know if it's the first step, maybe even to be able to give it to our kids. Yeah. First, really receiving it in ourselves so that we can do that.
Yeah. Definitely we can't get hung up and get stuck on mistakes that we made, on things we didn't, many times things we didn't know about. We didn't have experience. First generation, we were the first generation to raise blessed children. You guys are the second generation to raise children. Yeah, we're not perfect. I think that one thing that I think about is Landmark. We went through Landmark training about, I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that. And they've got a saying, "This is it, and it's perfect." Do you know what that means?
I mean, I can only guess because I mean, I've also read something recently. It's like we only are here and now. We can't be anything else. Is that kind of
right.
where it's going?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this is it. No matter where we're at, maybe my kids are married outside of the church. My child has fallen. My child's not interested in the church. Whatever your situation is, this is it. This is where we are at right now. And so we have to accept that as being perfect and who I am, then it follows by who I am is the possibility of grace and listening and acceptance, understanding, like that. And so that's the only thing we have control over. And if we get stuck by some of the stuff in the past, then you can't go forward. So yeah, I think you're right. I guess I didn't really think about it in terms of giving yourself grace, but that's what we need to do.
Mm. Yeah, I was actually looking up the meaning of grace because, yeah, just to make sure I know what it means. And so I was really thinking, for a long time, I've been thinking of grace really as forgiveness. But what I found out today is that it's actually just this unearned, unconditional love and compassion and generosity. So it's like giving that compassion and love to someone who doesn't deserve it or hasn't done anything to earn it, right? And that's, yeah, often as a parent, you often do that to your kids. They haven't really earned it. And sometimes it's easy, but sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's not easy. Yeah, but sometimes I think that's really what I crave to feel is this like love, absolute love for myself. Without having to earn it, of course, I still want to do a good job, but just to know, like, have that safety. I am loved, and no matter what I do, I'm going to try my best, but I will be loved in every situation. And I think, yeah, our kids want the same thing from day zero to, okay, day one. They also want just to feel that love. I just thought that was an interesting thing to learn. I didn't really know that it's not necessarily forgiveness. It really is just this unconditional love. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you were saying that, Amelia, unearned, like even undeserving love and acceptance. And you can imagine what happens when expectations of the parents enter into that equation. How's a kid supposed to, when you saddle them with expectations, how are they supposed to experience your unconditional love? And yeah, that's something I think that especially the first generation parents we had, because when we joined the church, we thought, like we're going to achieve perfection in 7 years. Our children are going to, we thought we had 7 children. So we figured, okay, so just automatically they're just going to grow up to perfection and get blessed, just like if you plant a seed and they're just going to grow up and follow our ways. And each of them, of course, are going to have 7 children. So we figured we have
wow,
50 grandchildren by now. But we got 2 and 1 on the way. So life happens, you have expectations, you have plans, and life happens. So that's something that I heard one time is that all expectations are bad. I think there's some truth in that.
So I take care of myself. I do a lot of self-care. So
she does. She's into chair yoga now. I told her that we've got some neighbors down the street that have goats. I told her that she should get into goat yoga, but she is out with chair yoga. Anyway,
I'm talking about my internal thing. Okay. From there, you learn like you are loved no matter what. And when you really understand you are loved, then easier to give grace to anybody, because I don't necessarily have quality or anything that deserve, but because I know that unconditionally given. So when I really understand that, then it's easy to give that to our children or whoever. That is the grace. I think in Japanese, grace means like blessing, forgiveness, and like blessing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so true. And we can be so grateful for that grace. And then, yeah, like you said, I think it does just become just easier to pass that on to our kids. And like you said, anybody. There are other people that, we might feel undeserving or annoyed with, but to just see them as also God's children and love them anyways.
Yeah, I think it's really important that parents always work on ourselves. We as parents always working on ourselves, always work on our relationship, on our marriage. And then even without expectations for our children, even without lecturing them on what to do, they can pick up on what kind of human beings to become. Yeah.
I think if we can see them, like we always say in our church, you look at each person as God's children or God's sons and daughters, and you can see it that way. When something come out, I wish he is, I wish he does this. But then, if God is really watching over them, then who am I to judge them? Right? You can really stop. You can stop yourself judging the children, judging others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I've learned and that in our church we're lacking is something that in Christian church they really emphasize. That's grace. But in our church, we're following the true parents. We're following the perfected man and woman who were walking on this earth at the same time we were. It's expected that, and so we're taught that we're supposed to go the way of perfection. And then it seems like when we fall short of that, we don't talk about that. You see some friends of the church, another blessed couple. You say, "Hey, Kenji, how's it going?" Great, great. How are the kids? Fine. Yeah. So-and-so, has just had their second child, and so-and-so they're getting blessed next year. And oh yeah, that's great. Didn't you have like 4 or 5 kids? They just don't get talked about, and we don't talk about our shadows or about the difficulties in our families so much. And I think that's one thing that High Noon brings, that it's okay to be not okay,
I think when we say the perfect, I said, what is perfect? Right? If you are perfect, you can fly, or what that mean exactly? So perfection is perfection of love, right? You can love the enemy like true parents did, go beyond any persecution, torture, everything. He can love. That is the perfection. So if we can really love the people, anybody, in really true sense, then, and Father said the enemy concept will disappear if you have parents' heart. If you are parents, all children, you don't think they are enemies. So if you master that, then we would be good. But many times it's a very challenging thing. And I hear still Cain and Abel problem in the church. Lots of things happening, and I said, yeah, let's work together.
I love that. I feel like you just maybe someone said it before, but yeah, you just redefined the perfection. Now we all know what it is. It's really being able to give this grace, this unconditional love. Yeah. And children are the best way to reach that, right? Because they really train you, already in their young age, but then I feel like it kind of grows in stages, like the kind of grace that you get to offer. Yeah, it came to mind the lyrics, "Grace filling me with golden light." Yeah, I mean, it's not always easy, but when you can actually get to that point, I'm sure it's very liberating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can it's very easy to see how that can backfire if you've got a skewed concept of perfection and what we should be and what our kids should be, and yeah, a lot of parents they think that, for example, my child would never watch pornography, and they're a blessed child. They would never watch pornography. They've been taught that. And, that's not what blessed children do. Then they hear the statistics that we've collected. 82% of young men from like 13 years old have intentionally viewed pornography in the last 6 months. Half of the girls, and they're shocked. Parents are shocked, and still they're holding out. Well, maybe my child's one of those, 19, 18% or whatever, and yeah. So it is really important to have an accurate view of what perfection is. I have come to the conclusion that perfection is highly overrated. It sounds like blasphemy, but I find that what's the most important is for me to get really good at looking at myself, at being self-aware, and knowing when I'm standing outside of the high noon, standing outside of alignment with God's will, and then getting back into alignment. And a lot of times that involves community too. So it may involve, I may need to talk with older brothers and sisters, older brothers. And so those kind of conversations are so precious that our children have with parents, or they have with older brothers or older sisters. Really important they have parents or somebody in their life who they can trust, that won't judge them, and who will be able to see their potential and their goodness. Somebody who can listen to their goals and their aspirations in life, and then remind them of that in a gentle way, in a loving way. And when a child can feel that, boy, that's when they can experience unconditional love. Before that, they can't really experience unconditional love, because they may believe that their parents would look at them the same anyway, or they would forgive them, but they're just not sure. They're not sure. And certainly we've given them good cause not to be sure sometimes.
I think in High Noon, we talk about shame. I think parents, if children feel the parents are ashamed of them, it's very hard to talk about. So one time, a Japanese mom called me and said, "Can you tell your husband to stop talking with my son?" And she couldn't use the word porn, anything like that. But when she told me, says, "I don't know what my husband is talking about with you. I didn't know they're talking," because David wouldn't tell me anything like that. So he said, "Just tell your husband." So I said, "Why don't you tell your son, or tell my husband? Why do you call me?" She said, "If church, the people find out that your husband is talking with my son, I cannot go to church." You see, that's the shame. I said, "What is got to do with you? You have a faith and you go to church, that's fine."
Oh, Mitsue, that's why nobody talks with me now when I go to church.
Oh no, uncovered the truth.
Yeah. So for their children's like shortcoming or some mistakes coming out is such a shame for the parents. He said, "I cannot go to church if they find out that her son watch porn." I mean, I don't know what to say. Don't put me in the middle. Just your son. I thought she would say thank you. It wasn't the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of us parents, we want to give our kids this grace, especially second-gen parents. But yeah, what would you guys say, like, because we just kind of talked about how can it helps so much when we have this grace in ourselves, for ourselves, but how can we get that? Do you guys have some tips? I mean, Uncle Dave, you just mentioned talking to older brothers and sisters that really lift you up and remind you in a nice way what you're striving for, but also they're just there for you and they believe in you. So I think, these older brothers and sisters that you look up to, that's definitely one way to feel this grace. But do you guys have any other ways or tips for us parents to get that grace?
I think the only way to get it is to experience it and to have either older brothers and sisters or your spouse that you're honest with, that you can share anything with, and you know that they, and then you can receive unconditional love. That's how we really experience God's love. And yeah, I think before you experience it's just a concept. Yeah, grace is more of a concept. And by experiencing it, then yeah, you really know what it means.
I think for me, I think it's like it's like I don't care, David. I know that God loves me, right? So when that came to me was reading book about the you are loved kind of books. Also, I do meditate. I meditate every day, and
You Are Special by Max Lucado. That must be what she read.
so lots of things. It to me, it doesn't come from other people's approval, other people's telling me how special I am, how great I am. No, it's like coming from vertical line that I know in my heart. No matter what other people say, it may hurt me time to time. Wow, they don't like high noon. Yeah, in that, but I know in my heart, God needs me and God loves me, and I'm just perfect. Tell myself, I'm just perfect who I am.
That's what I tell her every day.
There you go.
Yeah,
Grace from your spouse.
Yeah, I think it's come from for me, it's vertical first. And then, if somebody says, yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, that's a nice way to think of it, because I sometimes, like, I know this love exists, but I don't always feel it, And so I'm, of course, still trying to convey it to my kids, but I think, yeah, it helps us parents if we can feel it. And it just made me think of this one book I read, also a book. It's called How Big Is Your God? And the author was saying, in the Bible, it says somewhere, God loves you so much. It's like he tattooed your name on his body, if he had a body. And it's such a personal thing as well. And like, he threw out the question in the book, like, do you feel God calls you by name? Because that's also such a personal thing. And I think, yeah, I can just say from my experience, like, this ultra personal relationship, it's still something I'm working up to with God. And I think, I mean, I don't know if it's a lifelong project or not, but yeah, that's kind of where I want to get to, and be able to pass that on to my kids as well.
So David, stepmom and his sisters, they are very Christian, and they always tell our children how much they are loved. So yeah, always said God loves you. And if they lose something, or if they have some worry, she would say, let's pray. Yeah, always putting God in them. I think that's important for our children. Yeah, always call on God and invite God in the conversation. God loves you. Yeah, I think that's a precious thing. Right?
Yeah. Recently, my son was upset about something. He was very angry. And yeah, we were getting in the car. I don't even know what it was anymore, but he was definitely making a very angry face and doing angry actions. And I just told him, like, he sat in his seat, and then I opened the car door and I was like, I just want to tell you I love you right now. It's like, also right now in this kind of situation, I love you. And then we closed the car door, and then we had to drive. But I think that was just, for me, really important, because yeah, just I want my kids to know, like, also in these situations when, they act out in some sort of way, that my love for them doesn't change. And of course, I'm going to have to practice that always. It's probably going to, every situation is different. And to really show that I'm loving them is going to be a different kind of challenge in every situation.
Yeah, and all children are not the same.
Mm.
Some children need more grace than others.
You're laughing on Mitsue.
We have 7 children. We have one, and I asked David, is there something like black sheep in the family? Because it happened to him all the time. If we get phone call from him, what's next? So yeah, that's why I was laughing. But they can maybe slow, but they can change, or even they don't have to change. It's okay. We just show them we love them where they are at. Yeah, we did a lot, with him. We told him we love you.
Do they have a term for that in Japanese? Something like the black sheep?
I'm not sure, but in America you have, right? In
Yeah, I
Japan?
know the term in English. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they call somebody.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. What?
Yeah, I think it's important too to be like when you're talking, you have something serious to talk about, or your child has something serious to talk about with you, that sometimes we're not prepared for things. Sometimes, out of the blue, if your child tells you they have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, for example, then it may be something that you're not prepared for. If you do hear something from your child that you're not prepared for or you suspect, I would advise to not react right away, and even tell them, "Oh, this is a lot. Thank you for sharing that. Let me take a while can I have some time to pray about this and to reflect on it?" Because when we react, and I speak not, I speak a lot of what I say is not from how I did this, but how I failed to do this, not by how I was such a great parent, but sometimes how by mistakes that I made. So yeah, it is. Yeah, I certainly wish that I would have. And we can't really be prepared for everything. I hope you have nothing that your children never do that you will not be prepared for, that you didn't imagine. I hope it's all roses and blessings. But in the remote chance that it's not, then yeah, try not to react right away, and thank them for sharing, and ask if it's okay if we talk again tomorrow or in a few days, like that.
I think if we can train to be calm, peaceful, then we can respond that way. But if we are angry person,
Reactionary.
very difficult. So it's a training. Like I'm 71, 2. I think, yeah, it's still training how we can keep our mind calm. Yeah, you have to be calm, right? Because we cannot predict what they would tell us. And then if we can respond calmly in every situation, that is the goal for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, so it brings to mind when cups spill, when kids are little, they spill drinks. And these chances, I'm calling them chances, are already ways to practice that calmness, I mean, there might be other things that trigger you, but this has been something really for me to overcome, to not be triggered by these spills, because sometimes, yeah, I mean, I reflected, why does this upset me so much? And I guess, I mean, there are other things at play. Maybe the evening has gotten late and I need to get the kids to bed, and now I have a mess to clean and I feel it's all on me, or, lots of things are at play. But, our child, they do not do it on purpose most of the time. I mean, even if they do, they still are deserving of grace. And so I just feel like when our kids are small, these are really chances to practice this, not reacting or just keeping calm. And for me, what helped is to separate the situation from my child. So like, okay, it's a spill and my child is here and still very well deserving of love. I don't react to them. Of course, sometimes I do try to be constructive when the time is right. Like, oh, if we put the cup a bit more to the center of the table, then maybe it won't fall over. And then I talk about how we can deal with it together, the whole spill. But I hope through training, I mean, of course, there will be different incidences. And I hope that, I do believe that this can help parents kind of develop this sort of muscle of grace through like small things into bigger things. Of course, like you said, Uncle Dave, we don't hope for any kind of incident that we need to, offer, serious forgiveness for. But that's just.
I hope that spilt milk is the
Least.
most stressing and serious calamity that you will ever have to deal with.
Yeah. Cross your fingers for me.
I think when we were young, I think we are a lot more impatient with the children. Like, why can't you do this? Such a small thing. And I think now we are grandparents, so we have so much patience with the little babies, patient, or it doesn't really matter what they are crying or they break things, it's just smiling at them.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but when we were young and raising young children, I think this impatient thing and, it comes out. So, I think you should have a grace for yourself. It's okay, you don't harm them by word or by physically, but it's still okay. Yeah, it's still okay to get a little frustration, little anger. I don't think you would break them.
Yeah. But really this attitude of like, thanks for telling me that. Or maybe like recognizing, oh, that might have been really hard for you to tell me. Thanks for telling me. I feel like that really invites them to come to you more. And so that's also what I want to create, already through these small situations, spilt milk or I don't know, forgetting homework. There are little things that happen. And I think there are opportunities to just show grace and welcoming our kids no matter what. There was one time where one of my children came to me and I could see they were really struggling to tell me something. And she was like, like almost couldn't get the words out. But then in the end, it was a really small thing. Like in the beginning, I was really worried that something drastic happened. But then she told me, and it was just something from my perspective, quite small. And so luckily I had an advantage there and I could just be very easily forgiving. But also I wanted to just really recognize that I was proud of her for overcoming this difficulty of getting those words out and just telling her, you did the right thing. Thank you so much for telling me. I think and hope that continuously doing that will help them to always just come to us parents. Also, when maybe it is something bigger, maybe it's not even a bad thing necessarily, but just something where they need a bit more support. Because I think often children, they are struggling and they just keep it in and they don't talk about it, like maybe in university, they're really struggling just to find their purpose in life. Or a lot of people I've heard, they fall into depression at that time when actually they are so full of potential. And so I would, as a parent, really love for my kids to come to me at that time also and be like, just be able to let those worries out. And do my best to support them to find their way again.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our children, he gets into trouble much more than any of the other ones. And one time he went to jail, and so he called us because really he didn't have anybody else to call. And when I went to visit him, in looking through the glass to him on the other side of the glass, I said, I just asked him, "What do you think I'm feeling right now?" And he just started crying. So I told him, I love you. I'm proud to be your dad. I'm not proud of everything that you've done, but I'm proud of the young man that you are. And he just had the biggest smile after that, through the tears. And I think our children, their habit of lying or a habit of not sharing things with us, it's because they're not sure. They're not sure if we'll still love them. They fear that they'll disappoint us, and that there'll be a disappointment, and that is really unbearable. We were just in South America, and one family came to one of our programs. There were three brothers and two girls, three boys and two girls from the same family. They came, and none of them had ever talked in their family about pornography. And the first one, the older brother, shared about how he was dealing with it. He was like 22. And then the next younger brother shared about his experience. And the younger brother, 14 years old, he shared about how he was dealing with it, and um, he never shared about that because he didn't want to disappoint his older brothers or his parents. And they're really close, very, very close families in South America and Latin America. And they don't want to disappoint their parents. So yeah, after the sharing, this was in a brother's night, and so I had him stand up and all together, and I asked the older one, "Do you look at your younger brother? Do you think anything different? Do you think anything less of him after his sharing? Do you feel disappointed?" No. No. And they just hugged each other. So, together as brothers for the first time, really almost, that now they know, hey, there's really nothing I can do that will cause this person to love me less, or to think of me any differently than they do. Yeah. So that's the kind of relationship that parents can have with their children also.
Next day, the mother came
Yeah.
to the parent workshop, and she found that, and that whole family gets so close.
Mm.
They thought it's the most secretive thing that they kept inside, and now, yeah, sharing. And
Well, one time,
beautiful.
one brother that I had mentored, I'd been mentoring for a while, and I suggested, you should really, have you ever confessed to your parents? And he hadn't. So I recommended that I think he said he did, but it had been a long time. So I recommended he do a full confession to his parents. And then after that, then they agreed that he would check in and tell them any slips that he had in pornography or masturbation. And so he went a couple of weeks, and then he had a slip, and he told his mom, and that was so. And then then, like, the next week he had another slip, and he told his mom. He shared it with his mom, and he went into his bedroom. He was just so dejected. He sat on his bed, and his mom came in and sat beside him, and she put her arm around her son, and she said, "We will always love you." So that's the kind of potential, we have when we do get bombshelled by something that we didn't expect. There's the potential. There's an opportunity to show my child unconditional love that they haven't felt until now. And
I feel so liberating, like, to think of those all of those people that could receive that. Like, thanks for sharing that story with your son and the family in Latin America and this other brother. Like, it just sounds so liberating to be able to hear those words. Like, we will always love you.
The beautiful thing, huh? Parent
It's
and
beautiful.
child.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
A lot of times we just assume our children know that we love them. Yeah, one dad came to me one time, and I think he came to me and he said his son was acting up, and can you talk to my son? Then afterwards, and I spoke with the dad, and I said, yeah, your son he's not sure if you love him, totally. And he said, of course I love my son. And yeah, but I told the dad, I believe that totally. But your son needs to know that. And so sometimes we just assume that our children know that we love them, and maybe we're a little bit oblivious to our anger, our responses to them, sometimes our disappointment. And that's all interpreted that just it sows the seeds of uncertainty that maybe my parents could not always love me. If they knew everything about me, if they knew the private side of my life, then maybe they couldn't love me. So this grace, yeah, it's so precious, so liberating, and the lack of it can be so convicting, and it can bring shame to a young person and can really saddle them with a heavy burden that we don't want. We would never want our children to be saddled with that kind of a burden, those kind of negative voices in the back of our heads in the back of their head that tells them you're no good, or you failed again, or you're just a disappointment. You'll never amount to anything. Of course, no parents would tell their children that, but they tell themselves that. And so really the key to the solution to helping our children defend themselves from that kind of narrative, internal narrative, is that we show them no matter what they do, that we love them, we accept them, we're proud of them, maybe not always proud of all the actions that they do, but to separate that, their action from themselves, and that we believe in them too. We believe that they are going to amount to something, and they're going to bring victory. They can accomplish their goals.
Yeah, I've been trying to find sentences that kind of convey this unconditional love, that I'm just proud of you for being who you are. And yeah, one thing I've started to tell my kids is, I'm just so happy to be your mom. I'm so lucky. Or I'm so glad we get to be on this earth at the same time together, yeah.
So our second son was, so we homeschooled all our children. And in high school, our second son went to high school part-time. And so David would take him and have dad and son day breakfast, right? That makes 1-to-1.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Oh, those were precious times. Yeah. Yeah, and he was going to he was homeschooled, and then he went to high school, and so they had this home link where I think he was going to high school for half a day, and so I would meet with his advisor once a week, or he would meet with his advisor once a week, and then like halfway through the year, his advisor said, "Well, we don't have to keep meeting like this." But anyway, that was like. On those days that he would meet with his advisor, I would take him in, and I think he had to get to school at a certain time or something like that. And so we both agreed, no, actually, let's keep meeting. So he knew if he got meeting, then he'd be able to keep going to breakfast with me. So, and he liked the breakfast. It wasn't anything special. Denny's, you know.
Yum. I like Denny's.
It was the father-son time together.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
think
sounds.
those are important. Yeah,
Mm.
very important. 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Breakfast with mom. Maybe not breakfast because mom is busy taking care of the family. But yeah, 1-to-1 time. Yeah, that's
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is also a way of offering grace, like even in the good times, right? Like having these one-on-one dates or times just to really show your kids, I love you and like I just enjoy being with you. That's also grace, right? It's also in a positive aspect or situation as well. Yeah, I was thinking today about grace. One thing I was thinking about is actually Chanilguk has officially been established, so technically we're living in Chanilguk times. And it's kind of like what you said in the beginning, Uncle Dave. What was that quote? It was like, this is it. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. And it's perfect. Yeah, we just need to learn to really reach this perfection of grace in this life right now, where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So this is it. And it's perfect. I'm not responsible for what comes to me, what comes at me, what people do, what are the reality of how my life is. What I am responsible for is how I'm going to deal with that, who I'm going to be in the wake of that. So will I be a person of compassion, of grace, of acceptance, or will I be a person of anger and condemnation? Um, yeah, I had some real problems with one of our children. He got a girlfriend in high school, in college, and he stayed with her. Anyway, he wanted to, yeah, so we advised him, we gave him some advice, but I realized after a while that I need to accept my son. Yeah, he's not feeling accepted by me. After that, then I realized that, okay, we don't change doesn't mean that I have to change my belief. Like, for example, they come back here and visit several times. They've come here and visited. And we treat his girlfriend with love and respect. We don't allow them to stay in the same room together when they come here. That's our it's our it's our policy that only married or blessed couples can have sexual relations in our house, And I can't control what they do in their apartment when they're on their own, they're adults. But in our home, this is our standard. They respect that. And we respect his girlfriend. And there's been I have to admit I think I didn't treat her very well in the beginning, but now I've really made the goal to be able to accept my son and his girlfriend more, and hopefully they'll get married and hopefully they'll get blessed someday. But I can't really do anything about that. I can't do anything about his decision or their decision. What I can do something about is my attitude towards them. I can love them both and I can accept them sincerely, and I can be a loving dad. Um, and it doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean that we need to change our beliefs. Like some parents have children homosexual or lesbian. Also, one time I saw somebody on Facebook, one of the second gen, who came out as homosexual. And there's like, boy, there must have been like 100 responses post on Facebook that congratulations, and I'm so happy for you, and like that, celebrating that. And I can't really do that. But what I could do is I could say, wow, thank you for sharing that. I think I told them that took a lot of courage. Thank you. You know, and so we can respond in that way without and accept them without celebrating all of their actions. without changing our belief system, you know. And one thing that we've learned as a couple is it's okay to be different. And I think we have to, that's something that we would benefit a lot from also if we understand that it's okay for our children to be different too. And for the parents, for a husband and wife to have the exact same belief system, then that's even on some controversial subjects, whether it's political or a vax or no vax vaccine. When during COVID, there was usually couples were either vax or they're no vax. And once in a while, I'd see couples they'd be split. And yet they still are a very close couple, love each other, but they agreed to disagree, And at the end of the day, no matter what it is your child comes at you with, then, that's not what mom and I believe. But I respect your right to believe what you want. And, I respect your, this is your freedom, and I love you. I don't agree with what you're doing, but I love you anyway, so, how do we have a relationship that shouldn't block your relationship and your love? If your child coming out as with something like that, a bombshell like that, so they're homosexual or something like that, or if that blocks you from loving them as their parent, then you need to really reassess, take another look at that. And yeah. So Mitsue's tapping me. She's kicking me to the table. Shut up.
It's like on and on.
No, that was really great. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so grateful for just to hear your experiences of grace. I feel like you guys are definitely on another level, and we have so much to learn from your experience. And
I have experienced a lot because I required it a lot, maybe more than most. I've required it a lot
to be perfect.
Yeah, I don't know the science of grace, how that works. There's grace karma. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I mean, in some ways we might see it, like some things might be seen as a burden, but if we see grace as actually, I mean, it's an aspect of God, right? So if we can give that, then we are really becoming like God ourselves in some way. And so at least that's one way to look at the situation. Yeah, I think seems like a big part of being a parent is being able to learn to give that grace. Yeah, so I feel like we covered a lot of things. I just wanted to ask, so like sometimes I heard from a friend of mine, for example, like she really wants to give grace and she tries to look very grace-giving in certain situations. But inwardly, I mean, probably from her own upbringing, it is not really, forgiving or loving. And although she's really trying her best, the kids are so perceptive, and she feels like they also feel that. Yeah. Do you have any ideas what we can say to parents who really, they want to give that grace, but in their heart, it's just not quite there yet?
I don't know if we always be ready. It's like a perfect, right? That is perfect. And I would say I would work on myself. Where I am at. Of course, the language, because I homeschooled, I had lots of the suggestions, techniques, and how to deal with this and how to talk to the children, those things. But if I don't really feel it in my heart, it really, I have to work on myself and to get really angry at the little children. I think everybody experienced. So we had a parent meeting and we talk about what can I do? I get so mad at everybody expressing their emotions. And then, one from here, one from there, we get all the suggestions. And so I think she have to really work on herself and be okay with it. Don't be so stressed out if she knows it from her bringing up, the parents treat them that way or that way. Anyway, she have to work on herself, and she knows it, right? She knows it. Children are feeling that what she says really doesn't mean, So yeah, I think she have to work on that. I would say I would work on myself. Yeah, and have to calm myself. I always meditate and calm myself.
She does much more now than when our children were little.
Sometimes I had to leave myself away from the situation because the emotion and why comes out, then I have to leave the situation and walk around and I come back and okay, now they are calm, I'm calm. Yeah, I just leave myself from there.
Yeah, teamwork helps, I think, also to be in a couple, and so you can take that little break and come back if your spouse is hopefully also feeling okay. Yeah, that's one thing that my husband and I sometimes do. Or if I'm alone and I feel that this frustration, sometimes I just make sure my kids are okay. I'm like, it's fine, it's good. I just need to let something out. And then I'll go punch a wall or something, and then I'll come back and be like,
better punch a wall than your kids.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, and then I come back, I'm like, okay, I feel better. Everything's fine. I just felt a little bit frustrated. Yeah, it's also a part of growing, I guess.
I'm a very different person now than when our children were little.
Yeah, I can already see a difference in my parenting when my 11-year-old was 3 and now with my current 4-year-old. Yeah, I mean, none of us are born professional parents. Yeah, just learn as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for your time and for sharing so many wonderful things. I feel like, you've also just been a really great example with all that you've shared so freely as well. That's, what us parents also want to do. What we should strive for is to share openly and be able to share our hearts. So, yeah.
Thank you, Amelia. Yeah, with 7 children, you make 7 times the mistakes. So you learn.
Yeah, and we're the benefiters. So thank you for sharing all of that. And we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yes.